Homage to our fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to Manjushri, the embodiment of wisdom and courage. Homage to all the benevolent lineage masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and sublime, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please generate supreme bodhicitta. Now we will teach the words of my perfect teacher. In the words of my perfect teacher, we are now teaching the practice of Vajrasattva. In the Vajrasattva practice, we previously explained some meditation methods for the 100-syllable mantra. Some time ago, some people asked me to teach faster, saying that dragging it out too long wasn't good, and sometimes they have a point. When they say this, it seems like I can't elaborate as freely as I'd like to. Teaching quickly is certainly possible. Previously, in some places, I completed the entire words of my perfect teacher in just 1 month. I explained the earlier parts in more detail, but these sections contain practice methods that everyone should basically understand. With a general understanding and brief introduction, everyone should be able to practice. Let us continue today's teaching. Yesterday, we practiced visualizing Vajrasattva above our head. Then, through reciting the 100-syllable mantra, nectar descends from Vajrasattva's body, washing away all our karmic obscurations and demonic obstacles. This satisfies the evil spirits and creditors below. All of these are satisfied and the earth closes up. This is the principle. Next, visualize your body as having the nature of transparent light, both inside and outside. In the center of your body is a central channel. During visualization, your body is very transparent both inside and outside. Yet still, an ordinary worldly body with a central channel in the middle. The central channel branches into 4 chakras, like umbrella spokes. The navel emanation chakra has 64 petals with their tips pointing upward. Starting from the navel center, all of these, the central channel in the middle with all 64 petals inserted into the central channel. When we previously taught the great perfection of Manjushri, there were 3, the essence channel, blood channel, and central channel. Here, we only discuss the central channel. The central channel at the navel position was explained in more detail in the great perfection of Manjushri. Other practices also explain this when teaching the completion stage. All the petals point upward. The heart dharma chakra has 8 petals with their tips pointing downward. The navel petals point upward, while the upper ones point downward, like umbrella spokes pointing up and down. The throat enjoyment chakra has 16 petals with their tips all pointing upward. The crown great bliss chakra has 32 petals with their tips all pointing downward. These petals also descend nectar as before. Actually, from our crown, in other practices we previously learned, we visualize Tibetan hang syllables and other letters at the crown. Here, nectar descends from Vajrasattva's body. In this way, it slowly descends from the crown. First, the crown great bliss chakra with all its petals becomes completely filled with Bodhicitta nectar. At this time, as we will explain below, you receive the vase empowerment and purify your karmic obscurations. Among the 4 wisdoms, you obtain the wisdom of joy. You actualize the fruition of the Nirmanakaya. Visualize this way. Actually, according to the Paleo lineage's Guru Yoga practice, there's a specific practice of receiving empowerment through Guru Yoga. This is a method of practicing Vajrasattva and Guru Yoga combined. Actually, when we receive empowerments, some receive empowerment directly in the presence of a master, while others receive it through their own meditation, visualizing Vajrasattva, visualizing Manjushri, or visualizing their root guru, and thus obtain empowerment. This is called path empowerment. Nectar descends, starting from the crown great bliss chakra all the way to the 4 chakras and all their other branches. Every part of your body, including the tips of your fingers and toes, becomes completely filled with white nectar, like a crystal vase filled with milk. The visualization is very simple. First is the great bliss chakra, filling all the petals completely. And these petals that we mentioned earlier, the crown great bliss chakra has 32 petals, but actually each petal is like a leaf with many branching channels inside your entire body, including fingers and all parts of the body. Becomes like a vase completely filled with nectar-like white milk. First from the crown chakra, then the throat enjoyment chakra, then the heart dharma chakra, then to the navel emanation chakra, proceeding step by step downward. At each location, first you receive the vase empowerment, then visualize the secret empowerment, then the wisdom empowerment. When reaching the navel position, it's the precious word empowerment. Each empowerment respectively purifies. The crown purifies karmic obscurations, the throat purifies afflictive obscurations, below are the cognitive obscurations and habitual tendency obscurations being purified. In your continuum arise the four joy wisdoms: joy, supreme joy, extraordinary joy, and innate joy. Actually, these wisdoms were previously explained separately in Lama Yangtik and Chetsun Great Perfection. You actualize the fruition of the four kayas, Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya, and Svabhavikakaya. Then we recite, Protector, through my ignorance and lack of awareness, I have transgressed and violated my samayas. Guru and Protector, please grant me refuge. You say, O Protector, Vajrasattva, Guru and Protector, previously, due to my ignorance and delusion, I have violated the Pratimoksha vows, Bodhisattva vows, and Vajrasamaya vows. Today I beseech Guru Vajrasattva, the Protector, who is none other than the principal deity Vajradhara. You who embody great compassion, Lord of beings, I take refuge in you. Today I confess before you, I take refuge before you, I generate bodhicitta before you, and all obscurations are eliminated one by one. Your body and mind have completely obtained the nectar descended from Vajrasattva's body. Finally, you have completely removed all previous impurities that were eliminated in this previous meditation. Now you have become a proper vessel. Your consciousness has truly obtained the four empowerments and four wisdoms, and the seeds for attaining the four kayas in the future. The karmic connections have matured, and the four obstacles have been removed. In this way, before Vajrasattva, make another request. Today I take refuge in you, and then recite, I openly confess all the root and branch samaya violations committed through body, speech, and mind by myself and all other sentient beings. This is exactly the same as in illuminating the path to liberation. It's identical throughout the Nyingtik tradition. Please grant blessings to purify all obscurations, samayas, and violations. Here, I openly confess all the negative actions committed by myself and all sentient beings. May all be completely purified and blessed today. Bless that all obscurations, downfalls, and defilements be completely purified. After completing this recitation, immediately visualize that Guru Vajrasattva says with a gentle and pleased expression, Noble child, all your obscurations and violated precepts have been purified. At this time, you must definitely visualize. Actually, as we'll explain below, visualization is extremely important because while reciting and visualizing this way, all negative karma will definitely be purified through mantra recitation, as stated in the Sutra of the Horse Dance. The supreme mantra king, even recited just once, destroys all negative actions and accomplishes all activities. Therefore, this king of confession practices, recited even once, can destroy all violations of Buddha's precepts and inherent negativities we've committed since beginningless time. Finally, when our continuum becomes purified, accomplishing all activities becomes effortless. Therefore, you should visualize that Vajrasattva personally comforts us, saying, Vajrasattva personally tells us, all your obscurations and violated precepts have been completely purified. After giving this confirmation, Guru Vajrasattva dissolves into light and merges into your body. Originally you were an ordinary being, but now Vajrasattva above your head transforms into light and merges into your body. Through this, you transform into Vajrasattva, exactly as visualized before. This entire practice has quite many stages. Actually, this is a completion stage practice. Therefore, some of our previous masters required that the uncommon preliminaries of Dzogchen be transmitted only after receiving empowerment. However, what I received previously, whether from Khenpo Depa or from His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, never required receiving an empowerment before teaching the words of my perfect teacher. My teachers taught many times and never mentioned this requirement. Therefore, this time I also don't require everyone to receive an empowerment. Actually, having an empowerment is best, because generally speaking, in Tantra, especially in the uncommon practices of highest Yoga Tantra, such practices generally don't exist at all in outer Tantra or Sutra teachings. You should understand the entire process of self-visualization. Now you have become Vajrasattva. Then, at your heart center, on a moon disk the size of a flattened mustard seed, in the center is a blue Tibetan hum syllable. In front of hum is a white Tibetan om syllable. To the right is a yellow Tibetan benza. Behind is a red Tibetan sa syllable. To the left is a green Tibetan tawa syllable. In total, there are the syllables om benza sato hum. We can say there are 5 syllables around the hum syllable. Then recite om benza sato hum. Actually, regarding Om Benza Sato Hum, some people say that while the 100-syllable mantra exists in the current Tripitaka, Om Benza Sato Hum doesn't. Some individuals have said this before, but actually, this isn't the case. In the sutras and tantric liturgies translated by previous masters like Faxian, Prajna, and many other early translators, Vajrasattva's heart mantra appears throughout. It's just that the pronunciation methods differ slightly. Therefore, if it's missing from a few individual canonical collections, you can't consider it unreasonable, undharmic, or inappropriate. Previously in Han regions, some individual Nyingma Tantras weren't found when certain translators from the later translation schools went to India. When they didn't find them, they later said, "Oh, some Nyingma Tantras might be fake because we've never seen them in Indian Sanskrit texts." Later, many translators began refuting their views because some individual translators from the Han regions had only visited the eastern parts of India, wandered around briefly, and returned. In this case, they visited only very small areas and had no knowledge of India's vast treasury of canonical texts. Later, many libraries in Nepal had even more texts than India. Later, when Venerable Atisha came to Han regions and saw the library at Samye, he was extremely amazed. Initially, when Venerable Atisha came to Han regions, he felt he knew everything about Sutra and Tantra. After seeing that library at Samye, Sami had a particularly large library of canonical texts and treatises containing texts from Odhyana, Shambhala, and various places in India from when Buddhism had not yet suffered destruction. Many masters, great accomplished ones and translators, had invited these texts. Venerable Atisha was extremely amazed by all the Sanskrit originals and translations. Although he had previously felt he knew all Sutra and Tantra teachings, when he looked, most of them he had never seen before. From that point on, his pride was destroyed. He praised them, saying the sutras and tantras in your current libraries in Han region surpassed even the texts we had in India when Buddhism was most flourishing and had not yet been destroyed. How should I put this? My expressive ability is quite poor, isn't it? But it's still acceptable, right? If you were to say it in Tibetan, what does tsampa ra mean? Eating tsampa, and what else? What was I just talking about? Tsampa. So regarding mantras, indeed many tantras, including all the commentaries by previous masters, explain the immeasurable, boundless, and inconceivable merits of Vajrasattva's mantra. Therefore, when we recite, after visualizing ourselves as Vajrasattva, at the heart center we visualize Vajrasattva, including 6 syllables with hum. Then we recite Om Benza Sato Hum. Generally, when we practice the preliminaries, we mainly recite the 100-syllable mantra. Finally, when you visualize the dissolution, you recite about 100 repetitions of Vajrasattva's heart mantra. Visualize the 5 mantra syllables emitting 5 colored light: white, yellow, red, green, and blue. At the tips of the light rays are goddesses of beauty and other offering goddesses, waving their hands and scattering the 8 auspicious symbols. Also the 7 royal attributes: banners, parasols, precious banners, canopies, 1,000-spoked golden wheels, right-turning conch shells, and countless offerings. The 5 mantra syllables just mentioned emit multicolored light. At the tips of these lights, goddesses of beauty, and the 8 great offering goddesses hold the 8 auspicious symbols and various other offerings to make offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the vast, boundless, inconceivable, pure lands of the 10 directions. This brings them great joy, thus perfecting the accumulations and purifying obscurations. The various offerings just mentioned are offered to the inconceivable pure lands and countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions before them. Each offering transforms into various kinds of offerings. They too are pleased, thus perfecting the accumulations and purifying obscurations. Then visualize that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' great compassion and blessings transform into multicolored light rays and merge into your body. You yourself actualize the supreme and common accomplishments as well as the 4 Vidyadhara levels related to the path of learning and the ultimate fruition. The union fruition of the path of no more learning, that is to say, you can achieve the ultimate fruition or the union of the path of no more learning. Actually, regarding the 4 Vidyadhara levels here, according to our Nyingma tradition, some masters say the 4 Vidyadhara levels belong to the learner's grounds. Some viewpoints include the path of no more learning within the 4 Vidyadhara levels. This is explained separately in Luminous Essence, a guide to the Guhyagarbha Tantra. Here it says that including the 4 Vidyadhara levels, all are temporary fruitions related to the path. What relates to the fruition is the union fruition that has already been attained. This prepares the interdependent conditions for the Dharmakaya of self-benefit. We also visualize this way now. By making offerings to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we create the interdependent conditions for attaining the fruition of the Dharmakaya of self-benefit. In the future, this is the meditation method of upper offerings. Then visualize these 5 mantra syllables emitting countless light rays downward, illuminating all beings of the 6 realms in the 3 worlds. All their obscurations, sufferings, and habitual tendencies completely disappear like darkness vanishing when the sun appears. The Om Benza Sado Hum we just recited. Actually, when we normally recite Vajrasattva's heart mantra, we can always do this. When reciting Manjushri's heart mantra, we can also do this. When reciting Avalokiteshvara's heart mantra, we can also do this. In mantras, when practicing generation and completion stages, there are specific methods for accomplishing the 2 siddhis, that is, accomplishing self-benefit and other benefit. For those of us who usually have some meditation ability, when reciting any mantra, we can visualize removing all obscurations of beings in the 6 realms, just like when the sun shines. Darkness immediately vanishes completely. Everything has already dispersed. At this time, the entire environment becomes the pure land of manifest joy, and all sentient beings transform into the nature of 5-colored Vajrasattva, white, red, yellow, green, and blue. Often in other liturgies, this is called the 5-family Vajrasattva or 5 Buddha families. There are specific meditation methods for this Vajrasattva practice. After this, they all recite Om Benza Sato Hum from their mouths, creating a chorus of humming sounds. All sounds in the world of environment and beings become Om Benza Sato Hum, continuously producing humming sounds. This prepares the interdependent conditions for the form kayas that benefit others. To prepare for the form kayas that benefit others in the future, if we are to attain form kayas, we must now also benefit others and sentient beings, so we can actualize the Sambhogakaya in the future. That is to say, the fruitions of Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya can be actualized through this kind of practice, as also stated in the Dharma practice that spontaneously liberates habitual clingings. Emanating and gathering for the 2 benefits purifies conceptual obscurations. Just now, when this light emanates, it makes offerings to the bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and also satisfies all beings in the 6 realms of samsara, purifying their obscurations. Actually, this is the best method for self-benefit and other benefit, and for purifying obscurations. The pith instruction described here that is taught in this tantra actually coincides perfectly with the visualization pith instructions above. By relying on such visualization pith instructions combined with the skillful means of the tantric Vajrayana, one can perfect inconceivable accumulations of merit and wisdom in an instant. At the same time, one can accomplish activities that benefit limitless sentient beings. Thus, recite Vajrasattva's heart mantra with all your effort. Actually, in our brief time together, among those present, the power of faith, wisdom, and concentration certainly varies. Some people might not be able to recite Vajrasattva's heart mantra or the 100-syllable mantra with particularly pure speech. In the middle, they might doze off or chat with others. Some people not only recite with exceptional purity, but also truly perfect all the stages of visualization described above. In Mipham Rinpoche's biography, it says that Mipham Rinpoche said he had been in retreat for many years, and during all that time, every time he recited mantras, during the recitation of 100 repetitions, he never became distracted. After reading this biography, I felt quite ashamed of myself. When we recite 100 repetitions, we're never without distraction. It seems like when reciting 100 repetitions, at first I definitely want to meditate well. Benza, Sado, Hum. By the end of one round, the mind has probably thought about many different things. So indeed, there's still a great difference between us ordinary beings and noble beings. In Mipham Rinpoche's biography, it says he was in retreat for many years, and every time he recited mantras, he never became distracted. The kind of distraction that occurs during 100 repetitions never appeared. So, some of us certainly have quite strong meditation abilities in all aspects. In this case, the inconceivable blessing power of Tantric Vajrayana's skillful means can accumulate vast amounts of merit in an instant. It's truly inconceivable. We have some Dharma friends here who have stayed for a very short time and studied for a very short time, but in this brief time, their progress in all aspects, practice, concentration, and so forth, has been tremendous. This is also due to truly being able to apply the inconceivable skillful means of Tantra. In this way, benefiting sentient beings is also very effective, because if these obscurations are purified from one's continuum and the accumulations are already accomplished, then benefiting sentient beings becomes very easy. If the karmic force of obscurations manifests, then not to mention benefiting sentient beings, even one's own eating, sleeping, and daily activities become difficult to manage. Some people, not to mention benefiting sentient beings, are troubled every day. What should I do? I'm so sad and suffering now, they say every day. Of course, sometimes we might have poor health due to past karmic effects, and this might be a kind of fruition ripening. There's nothing we can do about it. But some people are constantly agitated and troubled, not to mention benefiting sentient beings. They can't even maintain normal life with their own bodies. In such cases, it's indeed very difficult. Therefore, by relying on the three jewels' blessings, in all aspects one should perfect self-benefit while simultaneously benefiting limitless sentient beings directly or indirectly if we really can't find followers to benefit and can't take leave or go out conveniently, then this kind of meditation is absolutely beneficial for countless sentient beings. In the process of practicing Vajrasattva, we can practice this way. On one hand, by making offerings to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the accumulation of wisdom will be perfected. By giving to beings in the 6 realms of samsara, the accumulation of merit will be perfected. The 2 accumulations of merit and wisdom are perfected, while also purifying one's own obscurations. Actually, each practice has particularly profound pith instructions that everyone should understand. Finally, at the time of concluding the session, visualize that all the outer environment of the Pure Land of Manifest Joy completely transforms into the inner sentient beings, the assembly of the 5 family Vajrasattva. The outer environment of the Pure Land of Manifest Joy becomes the 5 family Vajrasattva. They also gradually dissolve into light and merge into your body. Didn't you just visualize yourself as Vajrasattva? Then the 5 family Vajrasattva and the entire environment and beings merge into your body. Your own body also, starting from the edges, gradually dissolves into light and merges into the Tibetan Om syllable at your heart. The Tibetan Om syllable slowly merges into the Tibetan Benza, Benza merges into SA merges into Tawa merges into Hum, then the Hum syllable starting from the Ya bitags merges into the short A. Many of you don't know how to pronounce short A. Pronouncing short A is A. You should pronounce short A. Just A won't do. Short A and A are different, not Ya. Short A. I'm not a Tibetan language teacher. I won't teach this. The short A merges into Ha, and Ha merges into the sun and moon bindu at the head. The sun and moon bindu slowly merges into the nada. The nada is generally not obvious in some Hum syllables or Vajrasattva mantras, but in many textual practices of generation stage, this symbol is present. It represents the dharmadhatu or is a symbol of the blue sky. They merge in sequence. Finally, the nada also disappears like a rainbow dissolving in space, vanishing without a trace. Finally, all environment and beings merge into yourself, and you merge into Vajrasattva, starting from the Om syllable through the Hum syllable. Finally, the nada merges into the dharmadhatu. Thus, in the state of non-conceptual freedom from elaboration, relax slightly and enter meditative equipoise. When we recite Guru Yoga, at the end the Guru also merges, relying on 5 colored bindus that merge from the crown into one's heart. The Guru's wisdom becomes inseparable from one's own conceptual mind. In such a state, in non-conceptual freedom from elaboration, every time we practice Guru Yoga, we also enter equipoise for a while. When we practice Vajrasattva, it's the same. Finally, Vajrasattva merges into oneself, and oneself is also in a state of non-conceptuality. There's no present I. Originally, my impure body later became the pure Vajrasattva, but now the pure Vajrasattva has also transformed into these few syllables. Finally merging into the dharmadhatu, everything is without reference point, luminous and free from elaboration. If you have some view of Dzogchen or Madhyamaka free from elaboration, rest in such a view. If you don't have any view or realization, sit for a while in a state without grasping at anything. Sometimes, even in 1 minute, we get sleepy, like to sleep, and immediately start snoring. When conceptual thoughts arise again, once more visualize all environment and beings clearly as the pure land and assembly of Vajrasattva. Actually, no matter what we practice, for example, practicing Vajrasattva, in general deportment of walking, standing, sitting and lying down, when emerging from equipoise, this is the basic pith instruction of generation stage. Think of Vajrasattva's world as pure, usually when we walk. For example, when you're currently engaged in confession practice, you should frequently visualize this way. If you usually practice Guru Yoga, because you practiced Guru Yoga before, when you emerge from equipoise later, you visualize all sounds as the Guru's voice, all appearances as the Guru's emanations, and all conceptual thoughts as the Guru's wisdom. Visualizing this way is a particularly profound method of transforming activities into the path. All these are found in generation stage meditation. Actually, it's particularly important that we understand some basic meditation methods of Tantra in the future, then begin reciting the dedication prayer. Through this merit, may I swiftly accomplish Vajrasattva, and may I establish all sentient beings, without exception, in this state. I dedicate the merit I have created today to all sentient beings. May they all achieve Vajrasattva. May all sentient beings completely achieve Vajrasattva. Not one left behind, all attaining this fruition. Visualize this way and make dedication and aspirations like this. When reciting and practicing Vajrasattva or any other practice, focus your mind on the object of meditation without scattering elsewhere. Whether reciting Vajrasattva, offering mandalas, or other practices, it's best if you can visualize while focusing your mind on the object without scattering to external things. Not mixing in other idle chatter is extremely important. As also stated in the Tantras, without such concentration, like a boulder at the ocean's bottom, reciting for eons bears no fruit. If there is no concentration and the mind is not focused, it's like throwing a huge boulder into the ocean. There's no feeling whatsoever. No matter how many years, days, or months we recite, there will be no result. Of course, some great masters explain that no fruit here just means the results obtained are relatively few, not that there's absolutely no result at all. If we recite Om Benza Sato Hum or the 100-syllable mantra continuously but can't visualize at all mentally, is there merit? Yes, there is merit from verbal recitation, but because the mind is not focused, it doesn't have the kind of merit described in the Tantras. Therefore, when we explain this, we should explain it this way, because generally there shouldn't be much idle chatter mixed in here. Pure and impure differ 1,000-fold. With and without concentration differ 100,000-fold. When reciting, one should recite purely. There's 1,000-fold difference between pure recitation and impure recitation. With concentration versus without concentration, there's actually 100,000-fold difference. For example, reciting with concentration, one repetition can represent 100,000 repetitions. With pure recitation, reciting once equals reciting 1,000 times. Therefore, the great masters of the past were particularly focused when reciting, including when reciting liturgies and daily prayers. They would not speak at all during that period. Once, a great master came to our academy. Actually, His Holiness, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, held him in particularly high regard. He came to the academy to fundraise for building a monastery or something. At that time, we had an international study hall. There was a hall for the Han monastics. On the top floor of this hall was a guest room. We arranged for the Venerable Master to stay there. Our academy discussed it. At that time, the academy's finances weren't very abundant, but since the Dharma King said so, we still did our best according to the Academy's ability. I don't know how much money we offered then. I've forgotten. We took a bundle of money, including the manager Rao Sang at that time, and we went together. Just as we entered that room, the great master was reciting. His attendant said the Guru generally doesn't receive people when reciting, so please wait outside. We waited and waited for over an hour. Later, manager Rao Sang got particularly angry. Ah, he's putting on such airs. If this is how it is, he shouldn't come asking for money. After waiting an hour, he was finally able to see us. These great masters generally don't speak with anyone at all during their recitation periods. The ancients were like this. Nowadays, many young monks and young lay practitioners might not necessarily be like this. They talk while making phone calls, keeping the phone on while reciting sutras. Many people recite sutras while talking. But this way, the effect really isn't very good. The difference between reciting once and reciting 1,000 times. So generally speaking, try to recite as purely as possible, whether it's our own personal recitation or when we make aspirations together in class, or the King of Aspiration prayers we recite daily. It's best if the mind can be focused during this period. If the mind cannot be focused, it's best not to have other speech or various other elements mixed in when reciting mantras. If one mixes in some vulgar and unbearable idle chatter while reciting, then the mantras recited are impure recitation. For example, to give an analogy, even if you mix tiny amounts of brass or ordinary copper into pure gold or silver, then people can only call it non-gold or fake silver. It can no longer function as real, pure gold or pure silver. Therefore, Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava also said, 1 year of recitation mixed with idle talk is not as good as 1 month of recitation in silence. The merit of 1 year of recitation mixed with idle talk is not as good as a recitation in silence. Generally, not speaking during the recitation process is also very important. A forest of pearls from the Dharma garden from the Han regions also states, but all idle talk benefits neither oneself nor others, only increasing carelessness and cultivating unwholesome actions, leading to the 3 lower realms after death. What's taught in A Forest of Pearls from the Dharma Garden shows that Han Buddhism also particularly emphasizes that it's best not to have various kinds of idle talk mixed in during recitation. Otherwise, it brings no benefit to oneself or others, increasing carelessness and unwholesome actions. After death, due to speaking various idle talk, one will fall into the 3 lower realms. So this is not only what Guru Rinpoche and many great masters of Tibetan Buddhism have taught, But Han Buddhism also teaches this way. In today's era, some ritual specialists, when reciting sutras and mantras among the public, should strive to maintain silence. This is an extremely important point. Whether reciting sutras for others or chanting mantras for oneself, it's best to maintain silence. In our academy, previously during Dharma assemblies, many monastics might have talked quite a bit during recitation. Starting this year, we required that during Dharma assemblies, everyone should wear a silence badge. Many lamas said that with this badge, they felt embarrassed to speak, and it still had a great effect. So last time, when the Ksitigawa Dharma assembly began, right? Did you wear them? We should still do this in the future. We should also do it, okay? During Dharma assemblies, everyone should still wear a badge. Some people put the badge away when they want to talk and take it out again after finishing their conversation. This is not good. Reciting sutras and chanting mantras mixed with vulgar idle talk has no meaning, especially when performing rituals for the dead, such as liberation of departed spirits. Those beings currently in the Bardo who are suffering from fear, pain, and other torments will come hopefully to the masters and monastics seeking benefit. At that time, whether we are monastics or lay practitioners who often have recitation assistance activities, if we can neither clearly visualize with concentration nor possess pure precepts and vows, and if we speak words of greed and anger while our minds wander in confusion, then those Bardo beings who possess clairvoyance will know this. They are 9 times more intelligent than ordinary worldly people. The Bardo Pith Instructions also states this. They know our thoughts and knowledge, including every facial expression. Therefore, we should generally be especially careful when reciting for the deceased. Otherwise, indeed, they know exactly what each person's mind is thinking. If one has concentration, generation stage, and completion stage skills, it will indeed be of tremendous benefit to them. If one doesn't have these, but has compassion and faith in the 3 jewels, reciting with such an attitude will also be of tremendous benefit to them. When the Bardo, beings with clairvoyance, know this, they develop extreme wrong views and hatred toward those masters and monastics. Due to this cause and condition, these pitiful Bardo beings will also fall into the 3 lower realms. Such masters and monastics are worse than having none at all, because if there were none, these Bardo beings wouldn't fall into the 3 lower realms due to this cause. They would just drift around aimlessly in confusion. But because these monastics' behavior is improper, they instead develop wrong views and consequently fall into the 3 lower realms due to this cause. It's extremely pitiful. Therefore, we must be careful when reciting, especially now in the Tibetan areas. Many monastics in monasteries, particularly when reciting the liberation upon hearing or performing liberation rituals for the deceased, many people don't recite the sutras they should recite, but instead take out their phones and start making calls to others. Many monasteries should have regulations, but because we've reached the 21st century, many ancient traditional cultural virtues are slowly, even we Buddhists, due to technological advancement, have been severely impacted in many of our behaviors. I think Han Buddhism is probably the same. When performing liberation rituals or reciting sutras for others, no matter what, you must. If you usually can't do this, at least during sutra recitation you should turn off your phone and try to put aside talking with others. After finishing, after you've completed reciting this sutra, you can talk with them or chat with them. Anything should be fine. Actually, wise people, with just a slight mention, will immediately understand how they should behave. Their behavior throughout their entire life will be proper and in accordance with Dharma. But people with heavy karma or those who are ignorant might not be helped, even if you tell them repeatedly. Whether I say this or not, it's all equal in the dharmadhatu. I won't say more. Let's begin reciting below. Especially all the liturgies of tantric Vajrayana are what's called clear visualization generation stage word doors. Actually, much of tantric Vajrayana's clear visualization of generation stage requires having a kind of verbal pathway to engage in visualization. Without words, visualization also doesn't work. Sometimes our worldly meetings and worldly activities also need to be expressed through writing and articles. It's the main purpose of our recitation. Why do we recite Vajrasattva liturgies? Why do we recite Amitabha practice liturgies? Actually, the visualizations within, through text and speech, allow us to clearly visualize again in our minds. They serve as reminders. Originally, the essential meaning of clear visualization of generation stage must rely on words for visualization. However, some people don't focus at all on the meaning of generation stage and completion stage that should be visualized, but merely recite verbally with various different tones, powerfully and with rhythmic cadence, beginning to recite liturgical phrases like clearly, clearly visualize, visualize. Verbally, especially some people who frequently go into society to recite sutras, they can only say these phrases verbally or textually. When it comes to the most crucial time of chanting heart mantras, their mood suddenly relaxes. Even their originally upright sitting posture slowly becomes crooked. They begin smoking tobacco, the source of 100 evils. As for tobacco, we don't have that now. But when Patrul Rinpoche was alive, a very few monasteries in the Tibetan areas, it's the same when our academy holds Dharma assemblies. First, they begin reciting the liturgy. Then when it comes to reciting Vajrasattva mantras, actually this is very important. At that time they shouldn't chat or speak. But as soon as they start reciting mantras, everyone begins to relax. Originally, when reciting liturgy, your posture was still relatively upright and proper, but when reciting mantras, all postures become relaxed. Even some improper practices in ancient Tibetan areas included smoking. This still exists now. Like in Mongolia, Han Buddhism there derives from Tibetan Buddhism, but even in some temples within Han Buddhism there are such cases. When it reaches the middle part, some begin smoking. Looking at their behavior is somewhat so now, some individual behaviors in Buddhism are indeed very improper, extremely improper. At that time, why did Patrul Rinpoche write these words? It was also for this reason. They discuss irrelevant topics about this ditch and that ditch, opening the treasure door of countless idle talk, talking endlessly, just like handling black intestines, emptily counting prayer beads to pass the time. Handling intestines might have been like this in the past. Some don't recite at all, but just keep talking while moving prayer beads like this. When cleaning intestines, it might also be like this. This is the meaning. These are pith instructions. Without pith instructions, these texts are hard to understand, you know. So there's still a difference between teaching and not teaching, you know. Isn't it like looking at intestines, emptily passing the time? In the afternoon, they look up at the sky, seeing there isn't much time left. Previously, there were no watches. Now they might look at their watches. Generally in the past, when reciting in nomad families, they'd look at the sky and see the sun was about to set. Many who recite sutras don't recite properly during the day, but keep chatting like this, continuing like this in the middle. In the afternoon, they begin Benza Pupai Debe, and so on, reciting offering mantras like this. Then they blow instruments and make loud sounds to finish the liturgy. Many people are like this. Such recitation of liturgy is truly the lowest form of appearance. Such formal Buddhist activities would be better replaced by reciting the Confession of Downfalls to the 35 Buddhas, or the King of Aspiration prayers, once with a pure mind. Reciting liturgy this way while constantly engaging in idle talk is not very good. It would be better to recite the King of Aspiration prayers once with a pure mind, or recite the Confession of Downfalls to the 35 Buddhas once. It would be better to cancel all liturgies altogether. This would be very good, unnecessary. If you want to recite using liturgy, the mantras in the middle and throughout should all be proper and in accordance with Dharma. Making the time shorter is also acceptable. So when those of us present hold Dharma assemblies, it's the same. Most people are capable. I think when we previously held Vajrasattva Dharma assemblies and Samantabhadra Cloud offering assemblies, most people's recitation was quite enthusiastic in all aspects, including now. When our academy holds Dharma assemblies, we simultaneously have some individual cities outside where many lay practitioners gather together. They also basically don't speak during recitation periods, very orderly and very conscientious. Only after finishing the King of Aspiration prayers do they start talking to each other. In the future, our Buddhist tradition, no matter what kind of liturgy we recite, when reciting, everyone should try to recite and complete it in a silent manner. Those masters and monastics who rely on such impure recitation and formal liturgy to guide deceased souls into the lower realms can only cause more harm than benefit when performing Buddhist rituals for the living as well. It has no meaning. As masters, performing such Buddhist rituals is meaningless. Such people consuming offerings from faithful donors is truly like eating burning iron balls. Therefore, consuming offerings from faithful donors or deceased benefactors, whether as masters or ordinary monastics, is the same. One must never focus attention on the size of meat pieces, the thickness of oil cakes, or the quality of offerings. Previously, life might have been harder. Now, some monastics, when reciting sutras, might be particularly concerned about their offerings and donations. Instead, one should treat equally those patients or deceased who are at critical junctures, suffering greatly, helpless, and without refuge, generating the intention to benefit them and acting with compassion and bodhicitta. This is the most essential. Indeed, it's not for oneself to gain offerings or fame. One cannot think in these ways. Instead, whether they are patients or whoever, these people are extremely pitiful. We should treat them all equally and recite sutras for them with compassion or help them with compassion. Concentrate wholeheartedly and diligently. Practice the generation and completion stage methods you have realized. If you have some realization, practice the generation and completion stage methods you have realized. If you cannot do this, you should at least contemplate the meaning while following the words. Or at the very least, one should maintain a compassionate heart, having pity for these pitiful beings, generating faith and certainty in the infallible truth and power of the three jewels. In short, focusing the three doors of body, speech, and mind is extremely important. Many of us should be able to accomplish this. If one truly has realization of completion stage and generation stage, and recites accordingly, that would of course be wonderful, but if not, for example, if someone has died and needs recitation assistance, the merit of recitation assistance is so great, as stated in the Ksitigarbha Sutra. If there's someone nearby, even just one person reciting for them, they won't fall into the lower realms. The merit is tremendous. Therefore, if we have a compassionate heart, and especially great faith in the Guru and three jewels, and a pitying heart toward beings, I think we can also accomplish this. When you see a sick person or a pitiful being, if you have sincere faith in the Guru and three jewels, and a pitying heart toward them, begin reciting mantras and prayers with focused concentration. With all three doors of body, speech, and mind completely focused while reciting for them, if you can accomplish such liturgical recitation with correct pronunciation, clarity, and pure motivation, then relying on the great compassion of the three jewels as our refuge, the infallible power of cause and effect, and the boundless merit of bodhicitta, with all these conditions present, the sick or deceased will definitely benefit immensely. Everyone must remember this statement. If we recite for them with an especially pure mind, it will benefit them. Why? This is the great compassion and loving kindness of the three jewels, the infallible power of cause and effect, and the boundless merit of bodhicitta. Whether for the living or the dead, it will definitely be beneficial. We must definitely believe this point. Oh, I don't have generation stage or completion stage realization now, so my recitation for them probably won't help. Some people think, I'm not some tulku or guru, so when I see a pitiful patient and recite some Buddha names and mantras for them, including when you see patients, you can recite medicine Buddha mantras, the Diamond Sutra or the Heart Sutra. All these sutras can be recited, lay practitioners can recite them, and monastics can certainly recite them. It's not necessary to find a guru, is there? It's not as if no one except gurus is allowed to recite. It's not like that. Actually, anyone can rely on the blessing power of the three jewels to give blessings to others. It will benefit them. It's the same for the deceased. If we recite Avalokiteshvara's heart mantra or any kind of sutra for them, it will definitely remove much fear, doubt, and suffering. These will help both the dead and the living, unless past karmic effects, fixed karma, manifest, in which case, not to mention us, if Medicine Buddha appeared in person, even he might not be able to provide real benefit. Apart from this, the blessing power of the 3 jewels, all of this we need. Why is our recitation beneficial for them? Our mind's pure power, the 3 jewels' great compassion, the infallible power of cause and effect, and the power of bodhicitta. It's like medicine. When 3 different plants are gathered together, they can cure illness. When various powers gather together, it absolutely benefits the other party. Everyone must definitely know this. As people say, purifying one's obstacles on another's cushion, on another's seat cushion, purifying one's own obstacles. While you help them by reciting sutras, you also remove your own obstacles. At the same time, you can perfect the 2 accumulations of self and others and establish all beings with whom you form connections on the path of liberation. Therefore, we must exert all our efforts to do this. We must definitely do this. This is an extremely important matter. The words of my perfect teacher contains many truths that we practitioners need to know. These truths must not remain unknown. They are extremely precious. Nowadays, some masters and monastics who are generally acknowledged as relatively virtuous and knowledgeable about cause and effect, out of fear of the faults of consuming offerings from faithful donors and the deceased, don't even perform Buddhist rituals like blessings, dedications, and aspirations for patients, the deceased, and other suffering beings. This truly shows they have severed their compassion and bodhicitta. There are quite a few such people, some gurus and so-called practitioners who say, "Oh, I can't touch money, I can't form connections with others," and consistently avoid forming connections with anyone. They don't even perform dedications, blessings, or aspirations. These are all obvious signs. If there's no special hidden intention, they have truly severed bodhicitta. Actually, beings are very pitiful. They need blessings and help in all aspects. Some gurus stay in the mountains and never come out, seeing no one. In such cases, this is actually unreasonable. Each of us shouldn't be overly protective of ourselves. Some people are particularly protective of themselves. Perhaps this might be a sign of being a good practitioner, but they have a sense of isolation from everyone. Actually, without special necessity, we now need many different powers to bless and help others at different levels. It's not necessary that apart from one behavior, nothing else can be done. Therefore, His Holiness, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, was indeed extremely great. When the Venerable Master was ill, especially in his final severe condition, he still frequently formed connections with many of us, giving blessings and head touches. Including in the hospital, there were always long queues. It was frequently like this. This spirit is indeed extremely great, because for great bodhisattvas, forming connections, even just seeing them, has inconceivable merit. Therefore, each of us, including some individual Dharma friends here in our academy, when they have some small realization or some small achievement, they later become unwilling to have contact with anyone. In such cases, to speak bluntly, perhaps their temperament reaches a certain point. Previously in our academy, there was someone quite remarkable who stayed in retreat form for several years. After sitting for several years, when he finally came out, perhaps he had special realization from retreat, but from appearances he seemed incompatible with everyone. In such cases, it would be better to wholeheartedly recognize that such opportunities are rare. Opportunities to form connections with beings are rare. Everyone must definitely not give up such opportunities to benefit beings. On the other hand, there are some people who are overly focused on personal gain. After arriving at sponsors' homes in the midst of group activities, they don't recite the sutras that should be recited for the sponsors, but instead take out their own blackened recitation collection. Previously, many recitation collections were blackened, including now. Some Dharma friends' recitation collections are also blackened. Thinking their own sutra recitation practice cannot be interrupted, they begin pretentiously. Going to others' homes, they don't recite the sutras they should recite for them, but instead take out their own recitation collection and begin reciting. They are so serious and careful about their own little bit of sutra, recitation, and mantra chanting, and they think this can completely purify their own obscurations and the faults of consuming offerings. In their own recitation collections are many precious things. These all accumulate merit for themselves. But when reciting for sponsors' families in group activities, they look around, talk nonsense, and are absent-minded, completely not considering those beings who should be saved. They don't think about the benefit of the deceased or the living. Some people are overly focused on themselves. They go to others' homes, but they are very serious about their own sutras, wanting to repent well for themselves. I must never interrupt my daily practice. I must recite well. But what they recite for others, some of our current volunteer workers are also like this. In their volunteer work, they think this is being done for the guru, for others, so at that time, just casually dealing with it is fine. But for their own recitation and practice, this is for myself. I must definitely be serious. I must, otherwise, it definitely won't work. I must definitely be serious. They pay particular attention to themselves and their own affairs. Their work is also like this. They pay particular attention to their own matters. Actually, if one truly has the right heart, one can embrace any activity with bodhicitta. These people have severed the root of compassion and bodhicitta. Even if they later exert efforts to purify the fault of consuming offerings with such selfish, evil minds, it's difficult to purify the obstacles of consuming offerings. Therefore, if we can initially take compassion and bodhicitta as our foundation, doing our utmost, applying all our knowledge and abilities sincerely, diligently practicing generation stage and completion stage, without departing from the motivation to benefit beings, then whether at one's own home or at sponsors' homes, practicing generation and completion stage, recitation and mantra chanting are all without any difference. Actually, people who truly have altruistic hearts, wherever they go, it's all about benefiting beings and also about their own practice. No matter what, staying away from selfish desires. Look, Patrul Rinpoche's words seem completely the same as mine. I'm quite embarrassed. Just joking. No matter what, staying away from selfish desires and wholeheartedly benefiting others, these are completely the same. Therefore, we must definitely aspire to this goal.
Bandara